In this moment, we are in a fight for our most fundamental freedoms. And to this room of leaders, I say, bring it on. Bring it on. Bring it on.
Bring it on. All right, bring it on. That was the chant Thursday at the Teachers Union event in Houston, Texas, with Vice President Kamala Harris, who's just now become likely the presidential nominee of the Democratic Party after the most astounding week in political history in America. I don't say that lightly. One of the most astounding weeks, easily in the top 5 of all dramatic events in American history, and how much of a change it is going from Mr. Joe Biden, his 50-year career of service, transitioning smoothly, as smoothly as it possibly could, to Vice President Kamala Harris. Just a historic moment. I'm not gonna lie, I was shocked as the rest of you about the change. It was dizzying. I had been worried about this. I'm one of the guys saying we shouldn't change because it's too late. I welcome the idea of being wrong. I love being wrong when it works out well for everybody. You know, we're fighting the MAGA movement, and boy, are we fighting. So, you know, one of the most amazing parts of this whole week has been how flat-footed the Republicans were caught. I mean, they really just didn't expect this. If you saw the memo they put out, it was weak. You know, it's like they had the weird things she does, like she likes Venn diagrams. The hell is that? And the perfect example, I like to use like Sean Hannity as a guide of where the Republicans are messaging-wise and if they're caught. And this clip, watch this clip. This is the night she was endorsed. I think it was the very first night of the transition. This is what Sean Hannity came up as his big hit on Vice President Kamala Harris.
Reason that voters seem to detest Kamala Harris. You decide.
Okay. So.
And is that a socialist or progressive perspective?
No. I thought we were supposed to conserve things. I couldn't reconcile it. Now I can.
Yes, you're giggling, Vice President.
Yeah, she laughs. And she laughs, and all they could come up with was her laughter. And I had a friend of mine who's a Black American explain to me there's a bit of a racist trope there, by the way. You know, the happy Negro trope. That's where that comes from, by the way. When you see that, that's that history of look how happy they are, that they're not serious people. This is comparison to the dour, poisonous man that is Donald Trump, the zero personality, almost a black hole of personality of J.D. Vance, who we don't really know who it is. And I gotta tell you, I'm ready to feel joy again. I'm ready to feel happiness and laughter. I want to have a leader who laughs with their entire soul, like Mrs. Harris does. And I gotta tell you, it's great. Joe is a great man. He's a friendly, funny, humorous man. I love Joe. He's got his own dry sense of humor. What Vice President Harris brings to the table as a Gen Xer, and by the way, we're claiming her for Gen X. I don't want to hear any discussion about this. She's a Gen Xer, is incredible. And so I wanted to show something. If you guys haven't seen it, I can't imagine how you haven't. Her new ad came out just Thursday. This is her first ad out of the gate. Watch this carefully. Look at what is represented both visually and the words and the music. Watch this very first ad by presidential candidate and Vice President of the United States, Kamala Harris.
Donald Trump wants to take our country backward, but we are not going back. We are not going back.
The tear gas was used to remove peaceful protesters from Lafayette Park.
The president setting up this photo op for himself, dispersing peaceful protesters. He's holding up a Bible.
This is a mass grave being dug for coronavirus victims at New York City's Potter's Field.
They were peaceful people. These were great people. The love in the air, I've never seen anything like it.
a group on one side and you had a group on the other. Very fine people on both sides.
You can do anything. Grab them by the pussy.
I was able to terminate Roe v. Wade.
We are not going back.
Fires me up, man, right? I'm optimistic. It's been fun. And one of the most fun things I've had this week is the amount of people like you responding to my tweets or DMing me or sending me text messages, my friends saying, I feel hope. Hope. And for a long time, it's been hard to feel hope. Even when we were winning, it's hard to be hopeful after the dour, sour, nasty turn of politics in the last 10 years since the giant orange glob came down the escalator that day. It's been very difficult to have hope. And so I thought, as I got ready for the show this week, who better than the original hopium dealer himself, Simon Rosenberg, who's been telling us this for a while to have hope. And he and I see eye to eye on just about everything. It's almost ridiculous. And I wrote Simon, and God bless him. He said, I'm there, dude. He's with us today. It's going to be an incredible show. This show is not going to be, look, you're not going to hear me talk about MAG on there. You will a little bit, but we've talked about some really ugly things these last few weeks. You've talked about Christian nationalism. We've talked about Q. We've talked about, right-wing extremism and militia members. This week, folks, we're going to talk about looking forward, going forward together as a nation to take back this culture, take back our nation with hope for freedom. So I've got the best guy for that, my friend Simon Rosenberg. If you don't know who I am Fred Wellman. You're at On Democracy with FP Wellman, right here on the Midas Touch Network, wherever you get your podcast source. I'm thrilled to have you, and oh my God, I guarantee this is going to be a great show, so let's get on with it. Oh man, I am excited. Okay, I say that every week. I'm excited for each week's show, but I am excited for this week's show because you know why? Hope. As I said before the music, we've actually got hope. And I've had so many friends texting me or DMing me on social media saying, what is this weird feeling I have? And I was getting ready for the show and I said, hope. Oh, I got a guy. So I reached out to my friend Simon Rosenberg this week. He's a busier than hell. I know he is, but he runs a great Substack community. If you don't know Simon, he was on the show in September. He runs the Hopium Chronicles. Simon's been saying from day one that I've known him, hey, have hope. We're winning. And now we've had a week. You just had something fun in the pre-show on this. What's the scale of this week for you, Simon?
What we were saying is on a scale of 1 to 10, right? This week has been 100. And,
And why do you feel that way? I mean, did you see this coming? I mean, any of this coming?
No. I mean, listen, my God. I mean, best laid plans, right? I mean, sometimes when you try to do things, they work, and sometimes they blow up in your face. And, and let's just be clear about the degree of difficulty and the complexity of everything that's just happened here over the last few weeks. The idea that we could have had this seamless transition from Joe Biden to Kamala Harris, the torch being passed, the campaign didn't miss a beat. She was able to rally, the party rallied around her to, so that we didn't have a contested convention of any kind. She's raising unbelievable amounts of money, unprecedented amounts of volunteers. The vibe has shifted so dramatically. She's put out her first bit of media, which is powerful and strong. She's, her language. I've known the vice president for more than 20 years. I mean, she's somebody we used to hang out together a long time ago in San Francisco. And what I'm really proud of more than anything else is that this is really hard, what she has to do. She has to do 6 months of work in the next 3 weeks. She can't make any mistakes. And she's coming out of the box just confident and strong. Her language is her own. You feel like this is her campaign. She's in command of this moment. And and who would have been in command of this moment, given how crazy this all is, right? Yeah. The president has done an extraordinary job, a selfless thing. He's an American Cincinnatus, a true patriot, a hero. And here we are on the front foot, on offense, taking it to them. They look flummoxed. Trump made a huge mistake by picking Vance at the convention. Yep. His speech was, catastrophic and stupid and crazy, like he is. I mean, and what's happened, if I can just summarize, Fred, and then we'll get in, is that the thing that's changed more than anything else, I think, is not only that the sense of offense and hope and spirit and all that, but all of a sudden Trump Trump's vulnerabilities, the things that we know about him, his ugliness, are much more apparent now than they were before. They were being obscured to some degree by Biden, the conversation around Biden's age and his fitness. And now what they have left, it's like the emperor has no clothes, or the curtain's been pulled back on the wizard. What they got is they got an old, really unfit, unwell man who is in the contrast to this dynamic, powerful woman who is setting up the election as forward and backward. And all of his vulnerabilities, his extremism, his, the fact that he's a rapist, a fraudster, a traitor, and a felon, and his craziness, the Hannibal Lecter, the sharks and the batteries, and his his fealty to Putin and Russia, all of this ugliness becomes much uglier now, and much more problematic. And and we didn't know that, right? Like, these are things that we just, in this business, I've been doing this over 30 years full time. You don't know, man. You just go, you believe, you have instincts. But this has been an amazing week for us. We have, and the Democratic Party is rallying behind their new nominee. And, I think we should be, polling is starting. And the last thing I'll say, just as an introduction.
This is the conversation.
Is that in terms of polling, right? So where we were is that Biden was down a couple points. The election, Trump wasn't firmly in command of the election. He had a slight lead. He had just come out of his convention and the assassination attempt and everything else that had happened. And then, so where we are today, based on polling that's come in, and we just got a new Morning Consult track that had Harris up 1. I mean, she's up in a couple, it's tied in a couple, she's down a couple points, but Trump, whatever modest lead Trump had is gone. The election is now truly a jump ball election, and we haven't finished the process of the rally behind her, the rallying around her. We haven't had the VP pick. We haven't had our convention. And it's reasonable to expect that we're going to gain a couple points in the next few weeks based on these events that are about to take place, which means that if it's even today and we're going to gain a couple points, the Republican pollster for Trump put out a memo 2 days ago saying our expectation is that she's going to pull even or even pull ahead in the race. I mean, wow, right? That's not a very Trumpian thing to do, right? No. And so I think we should feel good about where we are. We have an unbelievable amount of work to be done. They are going to launch the ugliest ads we've ever seen in American history in the next few weeks. But they're worried, and we're on offense. They're in defense. We're united. They're already having recriminations over their crappy VP pick, their extremist pro-Putin Vance that he is. And, we should feel good, and we just got to go put our heads down, do the work, and we're going to go kick their ass.
That's it right there. And it's funny. You got to love the Democratic Party. I tweet out that this is how excited I am. And inevitably I get 4 or 5 people who are progressive saying, well, we shouldn't get comfortable. I'm like, bro, dude, I'm not gonna calm down. We're allowed to be fine.
No, I mean, in my community, we talk all the time about we got to take the wins when they come, right? And, it's crazy. And this idea that we always go to a worry, that we're so quick to jump to worry, that's not how you win anything, right? You got to acknowledge and take the wins when they come. You've got to be steely-eyed about where you are. But, this idea that it's better to be down a few points to mobilize people, that's just not true. I mean, people, anyone who's worked on a presidential campaign, I mean, I've told people this many times, if you think it's better to be down, then you go work on a campaign that's down. I've worked on campaigns that's down. People don't go hang out with campaigns that are down. They don't volunteer. They don't give money to campaigns that are down. People give and get motivated at campaigns that can win. And, and right now that's our campaign. We are Kamala Harris has had a phenomenal first week. The party is strong. Joe Biden's a hero, right? She's got a compelling argument. She's coming out of the box strong and confident, in command of the moment, as I like to say. And we've got a better candidate, better arguments, a better campaign, a better party. And, if we execute really well and work really hard, we should be able to win this thing.
And that's what amazed me, too, is I had a call this morning, a veterans group, a wonderful coffee call they have every Thursday. I love it. And the host did a great job. He had 2 of our delegates to the convention come on and say, hey, tell us what the process was like. And it was just so remarkable to me, Simon, to hear how freaking smooth it was. I mean, both of them just laid out, well, here's the rules, here's what we did, here's how we were told, we did this. It was just, you got to give it to Jamie. I mean, you really got to give Jamie Harrison and the DNC credit. We always talk about how the DNC is a mess. I mean, everybody likes to criticize the DNC. It's almost become like it's like the VA. No matter how good the VA gets, everybody's like, oh, the VA sucks. Like, oh, they have an 87% approval rate. Oh, but they're terrible. Like, okay, well, maybe things have changed, And everyone, a person on that call who's been involved in the process has been absolutely blown away by how they set the rules. They did it right. They're going overboard informing people, texting them, hey, your ballot's on the way. Here it's going to look like that. It's really been, I don't know if you've heard that from your circles as well, that the DNC has done a magnificent job of having this moment, right? Well, and remember, I mean, the DNC has a few things that they just have to get right in a 4-year cycle. And the nomination process was one of them. And because of these crazy games that were going on in Ohio, they had to go through a process to make sure that the nomination happened properly. So there was an action enforcing mechanism to sort of reinforce and buttress this process, right, that you're describing. And so because Ohio was threatening to, knock Biden off the ballot, right, in another kind of illiberal, very Trumpian thing. And so they went through a process, and Sam Cornell, who runs the DNC day to day, Jamie's the chair, Sam's the ED. He's an incredibly experienced and great guy. And they've got there's a lot of experience in Biden world. Right. Yeah. I mean, there are people there. Jen O'Malley Dillon's worked on like 9 or 10 presidential campaigns. Anita's been doing this. Steve Ricchetti. I mean, these are deeply experienced people. And the president himself. I mean, this guy, was vice president. He was on the national ticket 3 times. Right. He's been through this. He's gone to conventions. And so they know what they're doing. And I think the thing there was no way that any of us can anticipate was the organic rallying behind her. I mean, the great fear, as you know, that the people who were promoting the open convention aren't promoting it because they believed there needed to be an organic process that would, be the equivalent of a vote that bestowed the consent of the governed, right? That there needed to be a process to sort of vote for her affirmatively in order to give her the authority of being the nominee. This was not a crazy idea, by the way. No, I didn't agree with it. I thought it should just be her. But the theory was that, and what happened is that actually happened. Yeah. There was an affirmative, everyone looked at her and said, we're going there. And, and it happened organically. This wasn't organized. There wasn't a group of young 22-year-olds calling people, right? There was just this dramatic outpouring of support for her, which I'm sure surprised her, by the way, right? Because there was no way that we knew how this was going to work, and it's been incredible. I mean, look, this is an historic week for so many different reasons. Yeah. But just the magic of our democracy working the way it is, and what I've written about a lot on my own site and in my own talks that I give, is the other thing that happened this week. And Fred, I'm sure you've talked about this because this is very Fred-like, is that Biden reminded all of us that in a democracy, there is no indispensable man or woman. That what he did in a very kind of way of George Washington and Cincinnatus, by giving up power rather than holding on to it past his own time, he reminded Xi and Kim and Putin and Netanyahu and Trump, the autocrats and the wannabe autocrats, right? Yeah. About the nature of how democracy works. And it was, where there were no indispensable men. There are people that we're fellow citizens who have our time when we're in power, and then we yield it and give it to others when our time has come. And that's the core of how democracies work. And if in this battle between autocracy, authoritarianism, or liberalism, whatever we want to call it, and democracy worldwide, Joe Biden reaffirmed the essential power of democracy itself in the last few days in ways that I think we will only really come to understand. I mean, there are going to be 15-year-old women who become the leader of a country in 35 years who say, I got involved in politics because
I saw what Joe Biden did in the United States by giving up power willingly. And in my country where that has not happened, it made me want to get into politics kind of thing. I mean, this is a selfless an act that's going to inspire, democratic leaders in the world for generations. And because it's a reaffirmation of the core nature of what makes an autocracy different from a democracy.
I couldn't agree more. And it was ugly. And so a lot of folks said to me, I was one of the guys saying, we cannot change. It's too late. There's going to be chaos. We'll break the Democratic coalition. It's fragile already. I was wrong. Parts of that, but I think I was still right, by the way. But it went, like you said, couldn't have gone any different than as well as it went. But I think, steel is forged in fire is what I say a lot, right? I think in a lot of ways, the reason it did come out the way it is because there was this 3-week sort of self-evaluation and even a little bit of a battle within our own ranks to say, are we on the right direction? Are we on the right path? Here are some recriminations that got ugly a few times. I admit I got ugly a few times. I admit it. But in the end, that's what it takes to build. Steel is stronger when you put it back in the fire and you hammer on it. That's where swords are made of, right? Steel is forged in fire. And I think in a lot of ways, it made the Democratic coalition stronger as we came out and the pieces of the puzzle came in and we've seen such an outpouring is because, okay, we went through this. No more of that. We have a real opponent now. We have 100 days to prosecute our case against this opponent. And now let's go. I think as much as I despise what happened for the last 3 weeks, I think history will show us very soon even that it was very good in I think not just the near term, but I think even in the long term, it was very good for the Democratic Party because this is not the same Democratic Party it was 10 years ago. That was the joke, right? Well, I don't belong to an organized party. I belong to the Democrats, right? I mean, and what you've seen in the last week is an organized party extraordinaire, I think, and like you said, from administratively to how the vice president prosecuted her case to become the nominee, how Mr. Biden handed over power, how the delegates were called. And that was one of the things I took away from my delegate conversation today is they felt so humbled to be part of the process. They were included. They felt their voices mattered, right? It wasn't, there wasn't,
they did.
Yeah,
they did.
Right? Yeah. I mean, they were, I mean, that was remarkable to me is it wasn't some rubber stamp thing. I mean, they got on calls, they had to talk and, to their credit.
And look, I mean, to your point, I mean, I think you're so right about all of this. And in my Hopium community, I try to keep both options alive. I mean, I was telling my community that Joe Biden, I thought it was 2/3 he was going to stay as the candidate, but there's a third that he may not. And whatever the outcome was, we needed to be open to that outcome, respectful to the president, our party leaders, each other.
Yep.
And then we had to lead the process of healing on the other end. To come together, even though we didn't all agree, right? Because that's what happens in a mature party and in a family, right? That are respectful of one another. And we have come together very rapidly. I think J.D. Vance's pick helped. I think that J.D. Vance's pick and Trump's insane speech on Thursday night helped remind us of the necessity of the coming together at the other end and the need to create resolution, right? Because of the clear proximate danger that the Republican Party represents to our freedoms, our democracy, and our future. Right? Yep. And so I think that that's all true, everything you said. And I think we ourselves are going through various reminders and lessons of democracy and how it works and how a party works and all these things that are healthy and hard though, but necessary.
Yeah.
Right. To me, the discussion that we were having about Joe Biden's fitness and his health was hard, but it was necessary because we had to win. And, I give my forever my gratitude, to me, the line that Biden, I wrote about this today in Hopium, is that the line that Biden, to me, the most powerful line in his remarks from the Oval Office was the line, and I'm going to paraphrase it because I'm not going to get it exactly right, but where he said, there's times when you need experience, and then there are times when you need the new voices and the younger voices. And he said, that's now the time. This time is now, right? That was just so, and he leaned into it emotionally, like he nailed it in the delivery. And it was the most powerful to me reminder that he was the right figure in the moment of 2020. When he came into power, the country, he had what I call one of the worst first days of any president in our history, right? Trump had mismanaged the pandemic, and hundreds of thousands of people had died, and the economy was in free fall, and the global economy was teetering, and we didn't know if the vaccines were going to work, and we had just had the first non-peaceful transfer of power in American history, an insurrection, an attack on our democracy. Joe Biden, as an old man, had to go to work every day wearing a mask, in a room, and everyone had to actually physically go to work, right, and actually pull all this off. Unbelievable degree of difficulty, and look where we are today, right?
Yeah.
I mean, the American economy is the envy of the world, best job market since the 1960s. GDP growth has averaged over about 3% over 3 years. Inflation's coming down. The stock market's breaking records. I mean, America is booming, and we are kicking ass, and we are doing extraordinary things here in the United States. And the uninsured rate is the lowest this ever been. We see more new business formation, and we are accelerating the energy transition. All this stuff. Joe Biden has been an exceptional president and left us a far better country than the one that he inherited. And I'm excited for our nominee, Vice President Harris, to be able to draw on that success while weaving a news story about what she wants to do next.
Yeah.
And it's going to take some time, and we got to give her a little more than a couple of days, right, to figure out what she's going to do in the first 4 years. But her language and her video and her narrative, her story, her words, my favorite part of what she said so far, just as somebody who helps write things in politics, is her line around the economy where she said, we don't want to just get by, we want to get ahead, right?
Yeah.
And also the way she uses us and we, and not I and not government, right? It's like what we're all going to do together. This, for out of the box, day 4 of a presidential campaign.
Yeah.
She's in the zone, man. She's just, her language is good. The video is great. She's doing great. And I'm really proud of her. And it also, by the way, speaks to a central truth about her, is that she's an experienced person, right?
Right.
I mean, she was a prosecutor. She was the second highest ranking law enforcement official in the United States in California as the attorney general. She was a senator. She has been vice president. She has grown and matured as a politician. And, these jobs in the White House, you grow 10, 15 years in 3 to 4 years, right?
Yeah.
Compared to the dog age of other, politicians who have much more, she's been traveling the world, speaking at the Munich conference, going to Asia, right? She's now, Vice President Harris. She's not Kamala, right? I mean, this is going to be an interesting thing that the campaign is going to have to figure out, is whether she's the vice president or whether she's Kamala.
Yeah.
And so I think that what she's also demonstrating is that she's already demonstrating a degree of experience and capability that will become central to the debate about who she is in the coming months. And I have to believe that the Republicans are shocked at what's happened in our party, because they view women and people of color often as lesser than.
Yes.
And she's showing that she's more than, and is strong and powerful, not weak and capable. And I think that that's going to continue to keep, fucking with MAGA's head in
exactly.
weeks. In a way that we should all delight in, right? You wanted some hopium. We also can have some delight in the fact that this, biracial woman of, who's both of her parents were immigrants and, born outside the United States, is fucking bringing it right now.
It's unbelievable.
It's unbelievable.
And the energy. Let's do a quick sponsor break, because we're just going to have this conversation keep going. So we'll come here from our sponsors, and we got to keep going. So we'll be right back. Hey, let's face it. After a night out with drinks, I do not bounce back the way I used to when I was in my 20s as a young officer in the United States Army, full of strength, where we drink all night, then go working out the next morning. And lately, it's been not as easy since I'm a grandpa now. That is until I found Z-Biotics pre-alcohol. Now, pre-alcohol is the world's first genetically engineered probiotic. It was invented by a PhD scientist to tackle rough mornings after drinking. And here's how it works. When you drink, alcohol gets converted to a toxic byproduct in the gut. It's this byproduct, not dehydration, that's to blame for your rough next day. Now, pre-alcohol produces an enzyme to break this byproduct down. Just remember to make your Z-Biotics your first drink of the night, then drink responsibly, and you'll feel your best tomorrow. Look, I won't lie. I don't like hit the clubs anymore. I'm not that guy. But what I do is I take my partner and we go to outdoor concerts here in our town. We will sit down in the heat of the sun in the summer. We'll drink wine. We'll drink beer. And it kind of sneaks up on you. And the next thing you know, you're feeling a little bit under the weather. So I decided to give ZBiotics pre-alcohol a shot. And man, what a difference. Believe me, it is the real deal. So for vacations, weddings, birthdays, reunions, there's so much going on. Get the most out of your summer plans by stocking up on pre-alcohol now. So it's easy. Go to zbiotics.com/Fred to get 15% off your first order when you use Fred at your checkout. Pre-alcohol is back with a 100% money-back guarantee. So if you're unsatisfied for any reason, they'll refund your money, no questions asked. So I'm going to go back to it again. Just make sure it's clear. Remember to head to zbiotics.com/Fred. Use the code FRED, F-R-E-D, at checkout for 15% off. Thank you, as always, ZBiotics, for sponsoring this episode and for the good times you help me continue to have. Lumen's the world's first handheld metabolic coach. It's a device that measures your metabolism through your breath. And on the app, it lets you know if you're burning fat or carbs and gives you tailored guides to improve your nutrition, workout, sleep, and even your stress management. Not that I have stress in my life. Now, all you have to do is breathe in your Lumen first thing in the morning. You'll know what's going on with your metabolism, whether you're burning mostly fats or carbs. Then Lumen gives you a personalized nutrition plan for that day based on your measurements. You can also breathe in before you go on your workouts, before you go for a meal. You know exactly what's going on in your body in real time, and Lumen will give you tips to keep you on top of your health game. So look, your metabolism is your body's engine. We all know this. You probably learned this in health class, right? It's how your body turns the food you eat into the fuel that keeps you going. I've been tracking macros and nutrients and nutrition for years as I try to maintain my health as I age. Because your metabolism is the center of everything your body does, optimal metabolic health translates to a bunch of benefits, including easier weight management, improved energy levels, better fitness results, better sleep, better moods even, if you will. Lumen gives you recommendations to improve your metabolic health right in your hand. So if you want to take the next step in improving your health, go to lumen.me/Fred. You'll get 15% off your Lumen. That is lumen.me/Fred for 15% off your purchase. Thank you, Lumen, for sponsoring our show this week. We really appreciate you. And man, it's a great device. We're back. I want to go back to that energy. And I tweeted something I saw, and I had that opening clip of her laugh track that Hanny thought was a hit piece. And I love your take on this. Is I actually tweeted out a few days ago. I said, here's what I think is unique is joy. And it sounds weird saying that in the conference of politics and in the world of politics. But a personal side, I have PTSD. It's pretty well known. I went through war. I lost some people. I lost a wife to a car accident, a baby, well, my whole family to a car accident. I've had some stuff. And I went through years of treatment. And when I really got my big treatment called EMDR and some more, one of the things I used to say that first is back in 2018, 2019, I said, what I find interesting is I'm allowed to have joy in my life again. That the PTSD and the damage to my psyche over the loss of men in combat and the loss of family members, loss of a baby, had left me, though happy, not like joy. And joy is a different kind of emotion, right? And so I've had joy in my life again. It's why I'm living in St. Louis, because I have this wonderful partner who's living joy. And having said that, now what I was taken by this week is that Vice President Harris is a joyful person. Right? She laughs with her whole body. You know, she cooks. I mean, if you've gotten to know her at all over the years, you know, she loves cooking. You know, the wonderful Jonathan Capehart put a great clip out this week. I don't know if you saw it from a previous interview where before doing a national interview, she spent 5 minutes explaining how to brine a turkey for his You know, she's on the mic going, oh yeah, I'll be ready. Look, okay. So anyway, put the butter under the skin. And it's just, this is a person who embraces life in a joyful manner. Joe's a good man. He's humorous, but he's of a certain age and a different kind of humor. Like my dad's humor. My dad was a similar age. But when you see Ms. Harris, she embraces life in a way that we haven't seen at the national level, on the political level, in the presidential house. And I wrote, I said, you know, the thing I love about it is we haven't laughed like that. America hasn't had a chance to have joy again. I think back to Obama when they had events there. I mean, look, think about it. How do we know? A lot of us learn about Hamilton is when Lin-Manuel Miranda did an event at the White House and sang his draft of the opening bit. If you don't remember that, it was one of my favorite things I ever saw. He did that first opening part. That was at the White House under Obama. That's joy again. And I think a lot of people are kind of sitting back going, wow. And the response to that comment was so interesting to me. How many people are saying, yes, Mala, make America laugh again. Do you think that, I almost think that's a secret weapon, isn't it, Simon? That going back to that hope and joy thing, right?
I think that your point about having these new feelings and giving, and having emotions that you are still not really totally trusting or even understanding yet is important, right? And I think it's why we're here today. I mean, I often say that at Hopium, one of the things we try to do is to give people permission to love their country again, right? Which in essence is to love one another and to be in community and to not feel divided. And I think that we have had such my favorite line about Trump when he ran in 2016, and I don't remember who said it, but it said that, Trump is a tornado of bullshit, right?
Right.
And it was such and we've been subject to so much ugliness and that I think that let me speak to this, because I think that, yes, I agree with you. And I'm processing what you've said, because I don't know that yet in all of my own attempt to understand this moment that I'd really thought about it in the way that you described it, but I think you're right. And the second thing I would add to it is that I think the other thing that she's doing that is very important is that she's using this forward-backward frame.
Yeah.
And the forward-backward frame is not political. Mm-mm. It's not left-right. Mm-mm. It's a different dimension, right? Like she's walking away from the left-right polarizing stuff that is in and she's saying, no. I mean, we're all together going forward and we're not going backward. It's very inclusive, right? It's not exclusive. It's not pushing away. And there is this power. Obama ran in 2012 on his reelect on forward backward. And I was one of the architects of some of that stuff. And I think that for her to come out of the box, right, with forward, backward, and freedom, these are not left-right frames. These are not political frames, not Democrat, Republican frames. And so what she's doing is exactly what you're talking about, Fred, which is that she's removing us. She's attempting to remove us from this ugly conversation that's been happening in the country and the ugliness, and to create a new understanding of what's possible. Right. That is, and it's what I was saying earlier, that Trump's age and his unfitness and his extremism becomes far more exposed in this frame than it was in where we were. The Republicans are always desperate to make the conversation about left and right and Democrat and Republican, because by creating an equivalency between two things that are not equal, because Democrats are good and constructive and have left the country better, and Republicans have continued to push the country into a ditch and have now gone kind of crazy. They're desperate to create this equivalency, this symmetry between left and right, because it obscures our success and obscures their repeated failure. Yeah. And so that left-right frame, which has created this simplistic understanding, there's two teams, they're equally a virtue, equally a vice, is a lie. It's not true. There's one good party and one party that's done a lot of not so good stuff and has now gone batshit crazy and is dangerous to the country. Yeah. And so what she's doing is, I think there's something, this is what I mean. I've, in my gut, as somebody who's been doing this full time for 32 years, right? My gut is that she's come out of the box in a place that is even more powerful in some ways than we really understand. Yeah. And I've been shocked by it, because it is, I think she was ready for this for whatever reason, right? I mean, she's been campaigning, running around the country. But the thing is, all this campaignning she's been doing, which hasn't been getting a ton of press, has allowed her to try out language, right? Yeah. She's been out working it and getting stronger and, keeping her head down and just doing the work like we all have to do, right? To win this thing. So I'm really deeply encouraged that she's tapping into, to your point, she's tapping into the zeitgeist. She's going into the place, where we need her to go. And this first piece of media, right, that you
showed at the beginning,
that you played, is not a like take it easy, sit on the back seat, like let's see how things are going, right?
Oh, man.
That thing is like, boom, it is going there, right? I mean, the attacks on Trump and Vance are hard. She's leaning into this new multiracial America, the forward, this freedom concept. And, it's just, there's a lot of power in that ad. And it's a new vibe, it's different, new language, but it's where we need to go. And what's amazing is she's there day 4. Not day 30, right? And so I feel good. I feel really good about where we are. And I think the most important thing is that I was driving today and I heard a speech she gave today live.
Yeah.
And she's going to take up a lot more space than Biden did.
Yeah.
And the Republicans are all of a sudden up against a very, very different kind of opponent to them. And, Donald Trump doesn't like to share space with anybody. He's not going to like all the attention she's getting. I think that he's been out of he's only campaigning 2 days a week. He seems to be golfing more than he is campaigning.
Yep.
Because I think he's unwell. I don't think he's well. And I don't, I think he's not fit. He's not in good shape. And I think we're going to kick his ass.
I agree. I think you nailed it right there too, is the energy. And you see how Maddie's getting at Fox for actually having Democrats come on Fox to talk about it. And I love it. It's like, well, that's my station. Because one, he's sitting around watching fucking Fox all day. It's like, dude, don't you have a fucking job? It's like. I know.
So here's a line I've been using recently is that he's not a strong man. He's a baby man. He's a baby man.
He really is.
He's a baby. He complains all the time. He's a baby man, right? He's not a strong man. And, we're strong. He's weak. Right? We're united. They're the biggest, shit show that we've ever seen.
They hate each other.
He's a baby man. He's a baby man.
Yeah, and I think when you have a great contrast that came out this week, I think actually my friends at Lincoln, what put it out was, I think it was what was Ms. Harris's campaign when he gives a speech that says, "America's a stupid country led by stupid people." It's like, wow, okay, and it's like. And that's why I love how she sees the freedom. She sees the flag. She sees, no, it's not. It isn't patriotic to criticize your country. It's patriotic to criticize your country. It's not to smear your country, right? It's a different thing. And he just can't get past that. And I think the juxtaposition of these two personalities, the two energy levels, the two dedication to our country is going to be the gap's going to only widen, and they have no choice. I'm very optimistic too, because let's talk about timing. There's a couple of big things coming for one. Obviously, we have to pick a vice presidential candidate. Something the other day, I was at a town hall yesterday, and they're like, "Well, which one do you want for?" I said, "Any of them." I'm
with you.
Yeah, the short list is great. I mean, what a short list, right?
Can I just go back and just complete a thought on something you were saying?
Yes, sir.
I was at a meeting earlier today. And we're all trying to articulate our sense of the moment, right?
This is our job, but I can't do it, man.
and I thought about the fact that, it's often the case in polling that the most patriotic Americans and the ones are immigrants, and often Hispanic immigrants. And you know that Hispanics join the military at very high levels, right? And I think what's important for people to realize is that for families that come here from other places, they come here with this idealized understanding of the United States, right? That they've left their own countries to come to a place that they believe will be better and creates opportunity, and that they are in some ways more connected to the greatness and goodness of the United States than people who've been here for many generations, because their family had to do something very dramatic to come here and to be part of this thing. And I think what Kamala is representing also, I feel in this, is this love of country and respect for America, and this understanding that the opportunities that we all have here are not common in the rest of the world. It comes from somebody who is the child of immigrants and people, and that's also part of her in a way that I feel like in the last few days that I've started really connecting to, because look, all 4 of my grandparents are immigrants. They all came from nothing in the countries they came from. There is part of me that feels so unbelievably lucky and fortunate every day. And I think that she also has that, where Trump has this contempt for the United States, the contempt for opportunity. She wants everybody to have more. He wants everybody to have less, right? Except his friends who get big tax cuts. And what people should know who are listening today and watching is that the Trump tax plan is going to raise taxes on most middle-class people and cut taxes on very rich people. They literally want you to have less and his friends to have more. This is not a political line. This is reality, right? They don't believe in opportunity. They don't want people to get ahead. They want a handful of people to keep what they have. And it is literally the antithesis of the whole reason this country was created, right? And the antithesis of everything we believe. And it's very possible that one of the things that's going on with her is this sense of fortune and good, that her parents from disparate parts of the world managed to meet here and fall in love and have these two amazing formerly young women, right? The young women who've gone on to do remarkable things.
Yeah.
And that this sense of love of America that comes from recent immigrants is also, I think, permeating her language, her respect, what you were saying, her love of country, because she's lived the dream that we all talk about as the dream. Kamala's lived it, man.
Yeah.
And it's really been, I think it's a big part of it. So anyway, sorry to disrupt your.
No, that's much better than I had going. I love exactly what you're thinking. I'm very, it's funny when you made me think. I mean, 3 out of 4 of my grandparents were first generation, just like Kamala. Ireland, 2 from Italy. And then the 4th, my grandfather was actually old Massachusetts, like 1640. Like literally Wellman, one of my direct ancestors crossed the Delaware with Washington. And I've always found that dichotomy in my life very interesting since we discovered this in the last 15, 20 years, that not only do I have this immigrant, direct immigration in my blood, but I also have the old American Revolutionary War in my blood, and you can go see the Wellmans in the Linfield, Massachusetts cemetery. There's 3 Wellmans right in the middle of that thing who are Minutemen. And to that effect, it is a love of country like few. And I think immediately when you started talking about some of our immigrants, one wonderful young man, in Desert Storm, I had a young soldier, incredible young man, Mexican by birth, was an illegal immigrant, was joined the Army as an immigrant, was one of my greatest soldiers. Avila was his name, Specialist Avila. We went through Desert Storm. He kept my aircraft flying. We got back. He wanted to become a citizen. I ended up sponsoring him for a number of the things he had to do in the Army to get the citizenship. Got his citizenship. This young man stays in the Army, gets promoted all the way to the highest rank of the Warrant Officer Corps as a pilot, flies jets for the Pentagon. His last assignment was the Gulf Streams out of Andrews Air Force Base, and now he's a Southwest Airlines pilot. And my God, every holiday, he sends me all the gifts, all the GIFs, all the, you're right. The passion he has for the gifts he's been given by this nation and how he wants to give that to others is what drives that young man. And that it truly is what we have, a very unusual thing in a presidential candidate, not necessarily in history. We've had something like that. And that power is very powerful. Well, having said all that, we talked for a while. What's next? I mean, what are you looking for? I mean, obviously, I get even more giddy when I think about the fact we haven't gotten to DNC yet.
It's like, we're going to have the convention, which I'm assuming is going to include one night of.
And they run great shows. Let's be honest. The DNC runs a great convention.
Listen, the same team that ran the last convention is running this one, Stephanie Cutter and others. And, they did a phenomenal job last time. And now I'm assuming there'll be one night that will be an homage to Joe Biden and his remarkable presidency and more than 50 years of leadership. And look, I think that, what's going to happen now is that we're going to go through this very joyful period. They're going to attack her. But it's very possible that this kind of vibe and energy that we have just carries all the way through Election Day, right? I mean, we are, early voting starts in less than 2 months. It's hard to believe. The first people start voting on September 20th. Wow. The election is actually much closer than we really all understand because of early voting now. I mean, Election Day is now just the last day of voting, right? It's not really Election Day. I mean, a majority of people in the country will probably vote before Election Day or vote, by mail beforehand. But we'll see. I mean, we could go into majority this time because people are getting used to not voting on Election Day. It's a huge sea change in the way that we vote. It's obviously much better. I think the other thing that we, in terms of things we should look for, I think I was at a lunch today with a bunch of smart political people. And one of the things we talked about is how the coalition is going to change and how Kamala is likely to be doing better with younger people and people of color, and perhaps not as good with older whites. We'll see. We don't know. Right. But the reason that matters, let me just explain why that matters so much, is because the biggest pool of non-voters in our coalition are young people.
Yeah.
And so the big delta, in terms of our performance is often about how well we do with young people and how many young people turn out, right?
Yeah.
Because there's a huge difference between 50% turnout and 60% turnout, whereas the other older cohorts, their band of turnout falls in a very narrow band, right? But in terms of like the thing that is the big delta that can, and there is a lot of early evidence that young people have really clicked on to this election in a way that they weren't before.
Yeah.
Which is, and there's a poll today that just came out. Semaphore had a poll that I haven't gone through the guts of, showing her, at 2020 numbers already on with young people.
Wow.
And so I think the excitement that, and obviously that new video she produced is very much geared towards speaking to that audience,
Very
right?
much.
It means we're going to be competitive on social media now in a way that we weren't going to be before. We're going to be competitive on TikTok because she can make these organic videos. She connects, visually and linguistically and rhetorically. And so I think we're in a very different place now where we have a lot more tools at our disposal to make our arguments and in the game. But I do think this thing that's going on with young people, if there was this worry that Trump had an advantage on TikTok, I think that we now have a capacity to win TikTok now, and because that's going to matter. So I feel, we have to be very careful not to allow our own feelings and the three people we talked to today dictate our understanding. And that's why polling exists as an insurance policy to make sure that we actually know what's really happening as opposed to our instincts or our suppositions. But I just saw, that a New York Times poll came out, had her ahead by 1 point with likely voters. That's been a poll that's been really bad for us this year. And so that's encouraging. The new Morning Consult poll has her up 1 point. And so, if we go into this next stretch, as I said earlier, even or up a point or up two, I think that means that we're favored in this election, basically, and there's going to be a lot's going to happen. Their negatives are coming, but man, they took their big shot. They had their convention, they picked their VP and they're not ahead. No. And that's not where you want to be if you're the Republicans right now. And by the way, our Senate polling is all still very strong. Yeah. This other thing that for your viewers, if you want to geek out on data, there's a thing called the congressional generic, which is this question, which is, are you going to vote Democrat or Republican for Congress? It's a secondary measure, but it's one that I've been using, that I used a lot in 2022 to help me, navigate a very complicated data environment, right? And that has been, we're doing, our numbers are good there. Our fundraising in the House this second quarter was extraordinary. We crushed them in fundraising. Yeah. I just interviewed 2 different House candidates in battleground districts who were feeling upbeat and excited, and they're seeing increases in fundraising, increases in volunteers. The vibe shift is manifesting in their districts, in their campaigns, right, that we talked about. So I think there's this sense that yes, we can, right, or yes, we can, right? I don't really like that very much, I have to say. And that, we're on offense now after, playing defense for months.
Yeah, and that's where I live.
And it feels good, man.
It does, man. It really does. And I'm an old soldier. I live. I was a scout pilot and a attack pilot. Attack helicopters. That's what we do. We go blow shit up. And, we don't do defense. And
you take the next hill.
Right. Exactly. Keep going. Go deep and take them out from behind the lines. That's what we do. And then when I became a public affairs officer, very late in my career, General Petraeus got the bright idea I should be a spokesman instead. Don't know why. And I used to drive them crazy in that community because I was the same way. Traditional military communication is very defensive. Oh, what'd they say? Right. 5 o'clock news drops. I'm like, screw that, man. Let's just go hard. We have a mission to inform it. So I'm thrilled. I'm thrilled to see them going after it. I mean, I've dealt with I'll leave this aside, but I've dealt with others who haven't been as alacritive in their responses. I'm seeing a very different response now, and I'm thrilled to be witnessing it. It's a very Forrest Gump moment. I think we're all sitting in a moment of real history that can be made, and we're all part of it. And so It's exciting, and I know you're busy, and I appreciate your time. This is a great conversation. It went forever. I could go all day talking to you, Simon, and let's do this again. But thanks for jumping on this with 1 day's notice, man. Thanks for everything you do. Thanks for giving us hope, man. And
Fred, can I say one last thing?
Please.
Is that for all of you watching and this excitement you have, you need to turn it into good works, right? It's not enough. It's not enough just to be fired up and ready to go. You need to donate money. You need to volunteer. The campaign has had over 100,000 new volunteers in just the last few days. Wow. Extraordinary numbers. Be one of them. Be the next 100,000. Sign up. It's very easy to do on the site. They've revamped our whole volunteer operation in a very thoughtful and serious way. If you don't live in the battlegrounds, you can still call and text into the battlegrounds. Yep. If you don't want to do Biden, you want to help on the House races, help pick a House race where you're helpful. But take more of your time and money than you were planning before and commit it to helping us make sure that our democracies and our freedoms and our future are still there for us and our grandkids, right? Yep. And because we can win now and we have to go on offense. And Fred, as you know, from having been in the military, when you're winning and you're on offense, you have to push harder, right? And keep going, right? Because you have to prosecute your advantage when you actually start turning the tide. Yep. And we need to do that now. We need to work harder than we were ever going to work before, dig a little deeper financially, be part of this great effort. Millions of Americans who decided that on their watch, our democracy was not going to go slip away, be part of that effort, because Kamala will win if we help her win. Yep. It's not just up to her, it's up to us. Yep. And in her initial language that she is using, it's all about us. She knows that she can only win if we're there by her side. When I spoke to her on the phone just a few months ago, one of the things I said to her was that I want you to think about, we were talking about the Biden campaign. I mean, there was no inkling this was going to happen. Yeah. And I said, I want you to imagine, Madam Vice President, a campaign where you run it with, you imagine a campaign that has 200 field offices and a couple thousand staff, or do you imagine a campaign with 2 to 3 million people on it? Wouldn't you rather have 2 to 3 million people on your team than a couple hundred, a couple thousand field staff? Yeah. And she's like, wow, yeah. And she did. She's like, I do. And what do we do? And I've been working with them since that conversation, because she was so interested in this and imagining, how do you design something like that? How do you make it? So this new emphasis that you're seeing from the Harris campaign on putting volunteers first, encouraging volunteerism, understanding that the campaign is 2 to 3 million people and not a few thousand staff. Yeah. She's driving that herself. Yeah. And because she really understood, she's like, I'd rather have 2 to 3 million people on my team than 2,000 people. Right. Yeah. And they're doing it. And I'm really proud of them. And I'm really proud of her. Yeah. She knows that the only way she wins is with all of us. And so be part of this. This is an historic campaign. It's joyful. It's happy. It's full of love of country and love of each other. And that joy and that love is what's going to crush the darkness and the ugliness of MAGA.
I got nothing to add. You just took away my outro too. I was going to say the exact same thing. So, Simon, okay. I can hang out with you all day. Thank you for joining us and keep it the great fight. We appreciate it.
Thanks for what you do, man. You've been an incredible warrior. It's great to have you on our team, and you're fighting so hard, and I'm so grateful for it.
That means a lot to me, my friend. Thank you so much. We'll talk to you again soon.
See you, everybody.
See you later. You stole my outro. Damn it, Simon. Okay, that is the answer, guys. We press our advantage. We keep going. It's not really what Democrats do, but goddamn, I'm an old soldier, and it feels like we're winning, but that means nothing. It means we got to keep on winning. Look, we can win battles all day, but until we win the war, we don't win, and that is in November. And so no matter what the polls say, great, take him as fuel for the fire. But we have the advantage at the moment. We need to keep the advantage on one. They're going to get ugly, y'all. You guys know this. You have seen it. You've seen the disgusting sexist attacks. You've seen the disgusting accusations about Ms. Harris's past. It is absolutely abominable. You show them to you. Don't hide from them. Don't you dare text me or DM me or say on Twitter, Fred, you shouldn't be repeating these. No, I want people to see just how ugly our opponents are. The hatred and the negativity and the dismissal of such a large swath of our population, from African Americans to immigrants to women, that's who they're attacking every time they say these things, these horrible misogynist things. Take it as fuel Show it to people you care about. Say, look, this is whom you're voting with. When you vote with this gentleman, with Donald J. Trump, you are voting with these people spreading these malicious lies, these hateful comments, this racist tropes. Use it as fuel, folks. We are winning. I've said it. You've all thought I was crazy. All y'all thought I was crazy. I bet you almost every watch thought I was crazy. I've been saying it for the whole last year. We are winning. And now what? We're really fucking winning. And it's up to us. It's up to you and I to do our parts. Get online. You know, I'm part of Forgotten Democrats. Great place to start. I would love to have you at ForgottenDemocrats.com or .org. Come see what we're doing. Join the organization. Throw a couple $100 at us so we can get that to Democratic candidates down ticket. We can take the House. We can build a real, imagine a 60-seat Senate. What could we do for America with a veto-proof, with a filibuster-proof Senate? That's there. It's up to us to make it happen. I don't care if you kind of like your rep who's a Republican. I don't care if they do great citizen outreach and they're a good dude or dudette to hang out with. We must seize the advantage. We must give President Harris both houses of Congress and a margin that allows us to pass the laws that America wants. 75% more Americans want a woman's right to choose. 80% of Americans want reasonable gun measures, from background checks to requirements to actually have them secured so they can't be taken by a kid and go and shoot the president of the United States. Reasonable limits on outrageous acts by corporations against the people. These are things Americans want. The special interests are stopping it. This is our moment. And God, the best part of of this terrible syndrome we've gone through, this terrible cycle we've gone through recently, the best part is it's just 102 days at this point. That's all it is, guys. If we can gut this out and put all of our energy into a 102-day sprint to take this across the line and take our country back, banish the hate, banish the misogyny, banish the racism, back to where it belongs, dark corners of our country and the internet, and we just keep going. You know, I want to make racism embarrassing again. I want to make the idea that people are going on Fox and saying disgusting sexual things about the Vice President of the United States. I am so goddamn sick of it. We need to shame them back into the corners where they belong. And that's going to take all of you and me and us. And it's more than tweeting. It's more than Facebooking. It's getting on the phone. It's standing on a corner. Look, grab a damn sign, stand on your corner, wave the shit out of it for your favorite candidate. Let's take this country in the direction it needs to go, forward-looking, together with freedom for all. That's the mandate. That's what we need to give a President Harris, and we need to do it right effing now. With that, I am so happy to be with you guys. I'm so proud of you. I'm so proud of the energy you put into everything. Your support buoys me. Thank you for everything you do, the Midas Mighty and others. Make sure you share this, share the show, like it, subscribe, leave a review. I'd love to hear from you. In the meantime, we will keep up the fight, and we are winning. I'll see you next week.